Say hello to a new friend on an old road. Take a two-lane trip of memory into mysteries unknown. Come along for the ride. Jim Hinckley's America. Jim Hinckley's America.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How are we doing this beautiful day? Thank everybody for joining us. We're going to have some fun today. Well, good morning, Andy. How are you doing today? We're going to have some fun this morning. Of course, we always have fun, don't we, Andy? Sandra, how are you this morning? It's going to be sunny and warm, surprisingly enough, here in Arizona today. And next week, we're supposed to be just downright pleasantly hot. Around the 105 mark here in Kingman. Good morning, Linda. How are you doing today? Yes, coffee is hot and ready to go. I had a good birthday. Thank you. My pa always used to call me up as soon as I turned about 40. And I mentioned this last week, but he would call me up at some ungodly early hour, 4 in the morning or something, and tell me, how does it feel to be another day closer to death knowing your best years are behind you? And that was his efforts at humor, I guess. Linda, I am glad to hear that you're having a good day. You know, I adhere to a simple philosophy. Every day is a good day. Some are just better than others. Well, good morning. West Central Illinois, we got Bill, all the way from Iowa. We're going to have some fun this morning, aren't we, folks? Yeah, it's been pretty windy out here. We've had up close to 50-mile-an-hour winds there for a bit. Temperature's been all over the place. I was curious about that, Andy, how it went down there at the museum.
Say hello to a new friend no road. Take a two-lane trip of memories into mysteries unknown. Come along for the ride. Jim Hinckley's America.
Sure, it's a start, Andy.
He's America.
We'll have to get down there and do something. Have to get down there and stir up something, huh? That's the music. I'm so proud of that theme song. That's by Joe and the boys of the Road Crew. Keith, how are you doing? I was so honored that they did the theme song for us. It's you can find their music at roadcrew66.com. Great little road trip tunes like Under the Neon is a good tune that they have there, and but it's roadcrew66.com if you'd like to find some more of their music. It's ideal for road trips. Well, we got Casey Kiefer with us this morning, and Maggie May from Michigan, and Casey from Colorado. We got us a full house. That's always a good thing now, ain't it? Hey, good morning, mi amigos. I am so glad that you could join us today. Grab a cup of coffee, pull up a chair, and let's sit and visit for a bit. Linda Hobbs is opening the Blue Whale gift shop on the 26th. Looking forward to talking to visitors. You know, I think we're all looking forward to seeing our visitors and our friends and fellow Route 66 enthusiasts, our Route 66 family. You're going to really enjoy this morning's program. We have updates from the road and from Jim Hinckley's America. I'll be sharing some tangible links to interesting Western history. We are going to take a bit of time travel to the dawning of the auto industry and talk a little bit about some oddities and a little bit of humor. And we're going to visit with Dr. Dyke. And of course, I can't resist the opportunity to poke a bit of fun at our politicians. I've been refraining, but let's face it, it's just almost an impossibility. And it seems a waste not to use some of the jokes that they've been writing. It's they've just been so busy. And as we get closer to election season, we know it's going to get even crazier. And I have a couple of gadgets and some odds and ends to share with you for our show and tell section, including kind of an interesting family heirloom. Let's start with show and tell, and then we can talk neon signs, updates. Want to give a shout out this morning, Delvin Harbor and the folks down there at the California Route 66 Museum in Victorville, California. They have provided this morning's coffee cup. Let's start off with a little bit, like I say, a little bit of show and tell. This is obsidian. Kind of a volcanic glass, and it was really prized by Native Americans. It's extremely sharp, ideal for making arrowheads, knives, things of that nature. And if you look at this real close, you can see that it's been worked, and by that I mean cut and used quite a bit over the years. It's got some pretty sharp edges on the damn thing. It's always amazing. If you get a chance, you can see this on YouTube, but you can, if you ever get to see it in person or check it out on YouTube, watch somebody napping and making arrowheads. And it is truly an art form, and it's really fascinating. This piece of obsidian was I found it back around 1980 in the lower Members River Valley when I was working a ranch in southern New Mexico. And when you come across something like this, man, it takes you back. You can just let the imagination drift. You can almost feel the hands that held this 500 or 1,000 years ago. And the imagination drifts, the questions flow. There's no rock formations like this anywhere. So this was transported from somewhere, quite distant. And good morning, Tim. Let's see, just 1 second. We'll get back to the neon. Yeah, Andy, I did see that about neon. We'll get to that in just a second. The trade routes, so like on this obsidian, I've always been fascinated by the Native American trade routes and how extensive they were. We've been a lot of time our perception is tainted by movies, and we don't. The Native American people, there were some just incredible, highly advanced cultures and societies that thrived in harsh climates here in the Southwest, and the trade routes were pretty expansive. One was later became you could make the argument Route 66 is based on a Native American trade route that stretched across northern Arizona. Father Garces followed that route in 1776. And it's just, I'm always fascinated by those stories and the trade routes. Got another little item here. Andy will like this. This is another souvenir of my explorations, desert explorations during my John Wayne period. This is a miner's lamp, and it used carbide. It's really quite a clever device. It produces acetylene gas when water from the lamp's upper level encounters the calcium carbide stored in the base via a dripping mechanism. And then when you light it, here, it would produce a bright white flame, and the light was magnified by a polished reflector. I found this in a sand wash around the mines below Cook's Peak in southern New Mexico near the old Fort Cummins. And this was also along the towards the old Butterfield stage route. And there's a great book I want to recommend this morning. James McKenna, Black Range Tales. This book was printed around the 1920s. But it was reprinted about 30 years ago, and you can still find copies. Original copies are pretty expensive. But if you want a great first-person stories of the Western frontier, 1870s through the first decades of the 20th century, I highly recommend Black Range Tales. It takes place, most of the stories are down in southern New Mexico and southeastern Arizona. But a lot of first-person stories of exploring cliff dwellings, hauling mummies out, selling them to circuses, battles with the Apaches, minings. James McKenna was a justice of the peace up on a little town up by Cook's Peak, and was involved in a lot of things there in the Black Range area. Really a tremendous book, and if you can get a copy of that, boy, I highly recommend it. Now let's go to this next little item I've got here for you. Clemens, how are you doing this morning? This is a personal little deal. It's a family heirloom. This is an operational, let's see if I can get this, 2-cylinder steam engine. My pa made this for me. I don't know, we used to have a boiler for it. Somewhere in all of our moves as a kid, it went missing. My pa made this for me and gave it to me on my birthday just before he mustered out of the service back in the summer of '66. My pa passed in February, So I've been dusting off stuff and, of course, taking a few strolls down memory lane. My pa was a pretty talented fella. Aside from being a skilled machinist, he was also a passable mechanic. Uh, he built this all out of metal scraps in his spare time when he was in the Coast Guard. And one example of some of the things that he was able to do, he learned a lot of his machinist skills stemmed from his pa, who was a machinist for David Buick and a prolific inventor. I may have mentioned this before, but my grandfather actually invented the coaster brake for the bicycle and patented the device in about 1900. Now, my pa was also a graduate of the Henry Ford Trade School. Kind of a bit of personal history there for you. Before we move on, I want to encourage you to join me for next week's program. I won't spoil it, but the show and tell segment will include tangible links to the history of Tombstone, Arizona. This is a 41 caliber Colt, 1898, carried by the sheriff of Tombstone, Arizona. We've got a great story. We're going to talk about that next week. Keep you going, a little bit of a teaser. Now, a few Route 66 updates from Kingman, my adopted hometown, and a shout out to this week's sponsor, the one and only Wagon Wheel Motel in charming, delightful, magical, wonderful Cuba, Missouri. If you've ever puzzled over what makes Route 66 special, if you ever wondered why people just can't seem to get enough of Route 66, well, you spend a night or two at the Wagon Wheel Motel, and you'll discover why I refer and explore Cuba, and you'll understand why I refer to Cuba as a magical place, and you'll be addicted. You'll be hooked on Route 66, as they say. A word of warning, though: Cuba truly is magical. Now, everybody that knows me knows that my dearest friend and I, we are incurable desert rats. I refer to myself often as one of the dry roasted nuts. But every time we visit little Cuba, we entertain thoughts of perhaps maybe a new adopted hometown. And I've been working with the city there for several years to assist with tourism development. And I often wonder what our response would be if I were offered something full-time in Cuba. Speculation and wonder. Yes, that wagon wheel is truly special. Okay, let's get to some Route 66 updates from Kingman, Arizona. This past evening, May 20th, thanks to Legacy Signs, the Route 66 Association of Kingman, the City of Kingman, and, it is the Route 66 Association of Arizona and Legacy Signs and the City of Kingman Tourism. We have a new addition to the Route 66 corridor in Kingman. It is a new sign there at the Visitor Center. This is really going to add some pop to the Route 66 corridor in Kingman. It's quite a nice attraction. We are so fortunate to have Legacy Signs here in Kingman. They father and son team. They specialize in all kinds of signs, digital, billboards, but their passion and love is for neon. And thanks to Legacy Signs, the Route 66 Association of Kingman, the City of Kingman, with the passion of local business owners, we're getting quite a collection of neon, both vintage and new, but with a retro look, sort of like the Visitor Center sign. And there's more to come, as the Route 66 Association of Kingman has acquired the old City Cafe, Imperial Motel, and Branding Iron Motel signs. As soon as the organization raises monies, they will be added to our evolving streetscape here in Kingman. Branding Iron Motel, as an historic footnote, is still here. It's now apartments. The City Cafe is gone. That stood on the corner of what is now Stockton Hill and Andy Devine Avenue, Route 66. where Walgreens is today, for those of you who are familiar with Kingman. To date, the Route 66 Association of Kingman has assisted with the adaptation of a vintage neon sign that was badly damaged for the promotion of Mr. D's Route 66 Diner. They've also helped restore a circa 1963 OKU's car sign at Dutton Motors. Now, Dutton Motors is the headquarters for the Route 66 Association of Kingman. And if you want to contact them, I will put up the information later today. If you'd like to become a member, it's $100 a year. But the money all goes towards promoting Kingman, developing Kingman, public arts, things of that nature. But I'll get that information up. Not only have they restored the 1963 OKU's car sign there at Dutton Motors, they also have helped put up the 1930s Desert Drug sign and a 1930 Packard sign added to the renovated facade of the Old Trails garage. And they've also worked with the Mojave Museum of History and Arts to restore the Welcome to the Unincorporated Community of El Trovator sign that dates back to about 1930s. That sign is on display at Legacy Signs on Andy Devine Avenue near the city's signature water tanks. That picture I was just showing you is Floyd and Company, wood-fired pizza and barbecue. That's on Beale Street, 1 block north of Route 66. And in that picture, you can see the Beale Celebration sign. Those are both examples of Legacy Signs' work, how they, the type of signage they create. It's pretty neat, and we're so fortunate to have them here. Oh, while you're on Beale Street, too, you can check out the restored Kingman Club sign that dates to 1946. That is now Rickety Cricket Brewing Company there. I have a couple of suggestions if you want to enjoy the neon in Kingman. One, hit me up for a historic district walking tour through Desert Wonder Tours. Or two, come downtown on the third Saturday evening of the month this summer for Chillin' on Beale, an old-fashioned cruise night. Okay, now a couple of Jim Hinckley's America updates. I just finished the next feature article for Motoring NZ. This time I'm sharing the story of Milton Reeves, a bit of an eccentric. He developed some interesting vehicles, including one with 8 wheels, another with 6 wheels. And you can read this and all my weekly features at motoringnz.com. Okay, the current crisis has kicked the struts out from under a number of projects, so I'm having to make some serious adjustments. This means you will be seeing more free content and pay-per-view programs on through Jim Hinckley's America in the coming weeks and months. And on the pay-per-view side, I am currently providing my autobiography in serial format on our Patreon-based crowdfunding site. You can find information on this on our website, jimhinckleysamerica.com. But the crowdfunding is as little as $1 a month. You can not only have access to these programs, all kinds of different programs that we're putting together, including my autobiography, but you can also, I've got things up like video content, Edsel Ford's travel journal, odds and ends. And $1 a month may not seem like much, but we can accomplish a lot with pooled resources. And if you're not inclined to do something on a monthly basis, Bill, how are you? This old storyteller does accept tips. You can find the PayPal link on our Facebook page. And of course, advertisers are a big part of what we do here. We have plans for a weekly edition now of the live stream On the Road with Jim program, taking you on the road with us to different locations, different places, uh, meeting different people, things of that nature. And we hope we're not going to schedule those. Those are just going to be on the fly, and when we find something of interest. And then, of course, like all of our video, even this program, that'll be archived on our YouTube channel. We want to give a shout out to Louis Keene, the Uranus Fudge Company and General Store. On the Road with Jim programs will be sponsored in part by Uranus Fudge Factory and General Store. And you just can't help smile when Uranus is just the ultimate stop for juvenile humor, pure and simple. And all these programs that we're putting together are the Facebook page. People are asking that we relaunch the Adventurers Club program that featured interviews with Route 66 business owners, personalities, and event organizers. All of that is going to require sponsors. And we can put, if you would like to become a sponsor, please contact us. We can sure give you a big bang for your advertising buck. We can together do some things that's pretty darn impressive, and we can help build this sense of community and do some pretty good things. So if you'd like to become a sponsor, just drop me a note, contact me, and I'd be happy to discuss it. We can work something out, surely. Now, I'd like to take a little bit of time travel back to the dawning of the auto industry. We will start, let's poke some fun. Sylvia, Mike, John, and Ken, good morning. Let's go back to the dawning of the auto industry, and I will, let's have some fun. Poke some fun at Ford owners. This is a little book from 1917. Ford Smiles. Nothing but jokes about people who owned Fords. The Model T Ford. Let's see here. Some of these are ran across an old friend of mine today, remarked the Ford chauffeur. Did you kill him? Inquired the bartender. Pure low-budget humor. My kind of stuff. Why is a Ford like a bathtub? Because you hate to be seen in one. Banks is a lucky boy, said Smith, who owned a Ford but wasn't bragging about it. How is that? Asked Jones. Why, he wants to buy a Ford but hasn't the money. I just purchased a new machine for my wife, stated a pompous individual to a number of his acquaintances who were discussing automobiles. Washing, sewing, or auto? Asked one of the number. Some of this obviously is a little bit dated, and some of it gives a snapshot into Schnell, I lost my Ford last week. What shall I do? Why don't you advertise for it? Why? My Ford can't read advertisements. A hearty good morning to you, Sylvia. I told you, pure low-budget humor. Automotive slogans are really fascinating. Little snapshots, if you will, into automotive history. And they say a lot about road conditions in society. For example, the Jackson automobile was built between 1903 and 1923, and their slogan was, "No hill too steep, no sand too deep." The Allen was a wonderful power, the king of the hill climbers. And some of these were just, you can understand why some of these cars companies went out of business, because they obviously just didn't have vision, and they leave you scratching your head. The Maxwell, perfectly simple, simply perfect. The Rickenbacker was a car worthy of its name. The Car of No Regrets, the Master Creation of the Year. There's the Martin, the little brother of the airplane. Yes, Sandra, they were joking about Fords. Let me give you an idea on how big the American auto industry was. This is a book of all of the automobile manufacturers in the United States up to 1942. We had thousands and thousands of companies. It's really quite astounding. And surprisingly, some of these companies were in business 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Some were just a flash in the pan. When I started writing, Shane, I had forgotten that one. And do you remember Dinah Shore? See the USA in your Chevrolet. This is a little something I picked up at Auto Books, Aero Books in Burbank. If you get a chance, it's on Magnolia Boulevard. Been there's a little store in that neighborhood since 1953. This is a really intriguing little book. It's Dr. Dyke's Diseases of a Gasoline Automobile and How to Cure Them. And it was published in 1903. And it really, really gives some interesting different kinds of carburetors, updrafts, and how to repair them, how to get economy of gasoline, electrical systems, charging from a light circuit. And apparently this Dr. Dyke series was very, very popular. It had all kinds of different repair manuals and different things here. Now, talking about your acetylene lamps, how to plumb the carburetor, prime the carburetor. Gosh, all kinds of things everybody needs to know. And this was a pocket book, so you could take this with you when you were traveling. Because you could get money, you were going to be fixing your car along the road in 1903. Interestingly enough, this is just about the time that the first cars were being driven across the United States. Pretty darned astounding. Okay, I have refrained. I try to avoid getting into political discussions. But politics is always been a joke. Will Rogers, he made tons of laughs about politicians. I think it was he that said that we have the best politicians money can buy. And, it just is a shame. First, I look, so I don't get myself in too deep. Let me sum up my view of politics in general. Politics the world over is sort of like cleaning stables. It comes in different colors, but it all smells just about the same. And it doesn't matter what country you live in. But here in America, especially for younger folks, this might come as a surprise, but there was a time when we weren't so stiff-necked. We could laugh at ourselves. We weren't so politically correct. We weren't so just viciously divided. Richard Nixon appeared on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. The irreverent Saturday Night Live has poked fun at every president since Gerald Ford. And every president, from Ford to Obama, made appearances on the program to poke fun at themselves or found ways to joke about. I don't know what's changed, but I think we're a much poorer country for it. And I'm an old fart, so I can still find humor in politics. And after all, the politicians write the jokes. Here's my suggestion to survive and get through the presidential election season. Lighten up a bit. Just sit back and listen to the things the politicians say. And try not to see if you can't find a way to laugh or smile. I mean, just look at the gaffes that Joe Biden's made in the last 2 weeks. And look at the short interview with President Trump when he was asked about his coronavirus testing, when he said it was positively negative. Excuse me. It's all fun and games. You cannot take this stuff serious. And you got to remember, none of us are getting out of this alive. So to the best of our ability, try to leave the place better than it was when you got here. And try to find something to laugh about. Okay, podcast tomorrow morning. Don't forget, 5 Minutes with Jim is our audio podcast, and that'll be on and up tomorrow morning. You can find that on our Facebook page or on the Jim Hinckley's America. Sander, I'm very sorry to hear that about the Netherlands, because that's what's happened here to America. You can't joke about anything, and it's really become quite sad. Tomorrow morning, our podcast, 5 Minutes with Jim. You won't want to miss that out. And with that said, it looks like, I'm about out of time, and I don't want to wear out my welcome. So, before I bid adios this morning, I want to say, is there anything you want to discuss? Any questions I can answer? Bob, how are you doing? Shelly Gomez, gosh, everybody here. This program will be archived on our Facebook page, so you can watch it anytime. And you can also find this, it'll be usually up on our YouTube channel before the end of the day. And I want to encourage you, next week, join us again. We're going to have some fun, as we always do, and have some new surprises. Next week, we're going to share a bit of Tombstone history, and we are going to have a few other things going on. New book reviews, and if you're an author and you want your book promoted, send it along. The podcast will be up tomorrow morning about 6 o'clock in the morning, but it'll be on my Facebook page and shared through the Jim Hinckley's America Network. And you can also find it on the podcast page on our website, jimhinkleysamerica.com. And well, I want to thank everybody for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this morning. I hope you'll give me a holler, and if you find yourself out this way. And don't forget, next Saturday morning, 7 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, we'll get together and do this again. Pull up a chair, have a cup of coffee, and visit a bit. And if nobody has any questions or anything they want to discuss, I guess we will just bid adios. And we'll tell everybody that we'll see you next week at the same time. And I do hope everybody has a good week, and that you stay fit, healthy. I hope everybody in your family is healthy, and I want to thank everybody for joining us. It's really been good. Hank and Marianne, very good. Please say hi for me. Keith, have a good week yourself. I was going to mention Route 66 Association of Kingman, Arizona is having their monthly meet and greet. It'll be an American Pizza in Golden Valley, and it'll be the 28th at 6 o'clock. And the reason they're doing it in Golden Valley, they want to thank the people out there. They became members and supporters of the association, even though they're in Golden Valley. They became members before they even had their business open. So Scott Dutton, the president, is hosting the meet and greet. It's free. It's open to the public. Come out, have a good evening, visit, and have some fun with friends and neighbors. Anything else, guys? If not, well, we're going to bid adios and get this day going a little bit. My friends, again, thank you for joining us, and take care. We will see everybody soon, and either on the road or online, or, well, wherever our paths may cross. Adios.
Say hello to you, friend, on no road. Take a 2-lane trip. memory in the mystery.